My name is Barry Cranford. I'm the founder and organizer of the London CTOs. So if this is your first lunch club, I know there's a few names that I don't recognize. This came off the fact that we have a quarterly unconference in person, and in those we put up post-its and various kind of discussions of what people want to talk about. And we always found that there were more discussions and more post-its up than we had time to go through in one evening. So that then we wanted to try and create a space where we could start some of those conversations in the group and do it virtually so more people could get involved. That's where it started. We started with 4 or 5 people a week, and now you can see we're up to 31. I'm sure we'll have a few more joining soon. What we're trying to achieve here is that, look, there's only so much that we can get through in an hour, especially about a topic as deep as this. So this is very much a opportunity to be like, to use it as a bit of a magnet to bring people together who share similar interests in this space. So this is meant to be starting conversations, hopefully starting relationships. So if you see anyone on the panel that's that you think, oh, I'd love to follow up with, then this is the chance where we're bringing people together so that it starts these things off. I'm sure we're not going to cover this whole thing within an hour, although I know we've got some interesting stuff to get through. So with that in mind, we're going to share a document that will go through on the chat any minute now. You can add your LinkedIn details to that. All the panelists and Georgina's as the host details are on there. So if you want to follow up after that, then please do. Other than that, I'll get out of the way. Thank you, Georgina, so much for volunteering to say this, and Marc, Nick, and Rajani for being here today. Georgina, I'll hand over to you to take it from here.
Thanks, Barry, and hello, everybody. Amazing turnout, absolutely incredible turnout for a round table. So clearly lots of interest in this topic, and having worked with the panelists on a few questions, we've got some really good stuff to share with lots of different perspectives as well. So I don't know who knows the panelists, so I think it's probably worth doing a very quick hello from the panelists, just a quick intro on who you are and what you're doing today, if you don't mind. So Nick, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much, Georgina, and thank you, Barry, for hosting us. My name's Nick Westall. I'm a commercial business technologist. I've worked across a number of different private equity organizations, currently doing a strategy advisory for them and for another company, and about to join them as their chief operating officer on the 1st of November. I'm coming at this from AI, very much from a perspective of the companies that I've worked with, how I use AI myself, and indeed how we can see it developing across private equity in their own organizations as well as their portfolio companies, irrespective of the technology product and service that they may provide, whether it's SaaS or whether it's straight in there as a solutions provider.
Brilliant, thank you. Marc.
Hi everyone, happy Friday. Unlike Nick, I live at the other end of the spectrum. I've been a startup CTO for over 10 years, and for part of that, I was also a chief operating officer. I did a PhD in quantum computing that now I wish had been AI, might be a bit more applicable. I'm also a NED, an angel investor, a startup coach. The thing people remember most about me, though, is that I also used to be a professional skydiver, and I had the honor of representing Great Britain at the World Championships last year. Keeps me in my day job. But I love taking part in these kind of talks, not for the areas we all disagree in, but for the areas where we see differences, where things are maybe a little bit controversial. So please do, those of you in the audience, let us know as we're going through things where you're seeing something else. Thanks. Back to you, Georgina.
Brilliant, thank you. And finally, Rajani.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rajani Rao. I have over 2 decades of experience in software engineering, right from embedded systems all the way to the cloud. I'm a founder of my company, Vision Ariser, where we use AI quite a bit. I also sit on advisory boards. I'm a fractional CTO for Bud, and I'm also a principal technologist at Aviva. So, hands in a lot of pies. I sit on advisory boards for AI companies as well, and I work with the CTOs to advise them how to go ahead. And I'm super proud that some of these interactions and advice have resulted in a good patent in AI as well. So that's me in a nutshell.
Brilliant, thank you. And I suppose I ought to introduce myself as well. So, hello everybody. I'm Georgina Owens. I call myself Chief Technologist. I've been in technology forever across multiple different sectors, small, medium, and large organisations, and currently work in kind of fractionally. Kind of not really. I'm actually enjoying just doing loads of thought leadership and panels and roundtables until the money runs out, and then I'll have to go and sell my soul to somebody to to fill the bank account again, I guess. So yeah, we had a lot of fun actually putting the questions together today, and just starting to discuss in our prep. We had an hour. We did the round table without all of you there, so you know we've already gone a long way on this conversation. But what we're going to kick off with is, and a few of you alluded to this when we started, what exactly you're doing with AI today and what results have you seen? And we've got different perspectives on this, but I want to start with Marc first as the startup CTO, where as you very nicely said, you're still building the plane. So please do tell us what you're doing with AI today.
Yeah, thanks, Georgina. I can't remember who mentioned this in the introductions, but I think it is very true that the problems businesses have, or at least startups have today, are still very much the same as what they've always been. AI has arguably given us more options for solving those problems, and a lot of hype and expectation around how fast and how many of the problems you can utilize it for. If I go sort of through the development life cycle and where we found AI's brought the most value so far, I would start with when tickets get created. Often the problem is they're imprecise, they're incomplete. We've been using AI very successfully to help rewrite and enrich those and make sure that you've got a useful ticket sooner. I think, like some of the other panelists, we're seeing great strides in rapidly prototyping, so validating ideas with customers much more quickly than we could before. For me personally, a big win is using meeting transcripts for a variety of use cases. That's both the obvious, creating summaries so that you don't have to take notes, but also evaluating things like communication quality, psychological safety, giving the hosts of the meeting feedback. And for me personally, because I love getting feedback, good and bad, it's really helped speed up my own feedback loop. I'm in a new role at the moment, and making sure that I'm always aware of all the voices in the room. AI has definitely helped me do that. We'll probably end up talking about this a little bit more, but actually using AI for code generation, the only place we've seen it being particularly useful, generally speaking, are the one-shot scaffolds you might create as you're just starting out a piece of work. It can help, for example, surface the reusable components that you have that you'd forgotten about, that you would otherwise only have realized further on down the line. A common area that I know other people have spotted as well is test generation. Maybe not to save time writing tests, but certainly to lift the average coverage. And lastly, and this is something we're still playing around with, because again, there's 1,000 different ways of setting it up, is introducing a first pass code review on pull requests. This is often one of the bottlenecks you're trying to optimize for if you're looking at DORA metrics and whatever framework you're in. Having something that can help accelerate there has only been a positive for us, because the human in the loop always has the option of ignoring it and throwing it away and saying, no, that's completely stupid. So these are probably the main areas right now within our startup that we've seen AI bring benefit. And I think the key thing for us, for the takeaway for me is that AI isn't the feature for us. We're not trying to bolt AI into our product to do something, but we're using it to accelerate the process of working out as a startup, how are we going to generate revenue? What is it our customers actually want from us? You're muted, Georgina.
I am muted because I have a very large dog who's quite noisy, so I was muting in between. Thank you, Marc. Nick, can you go to the other end for us and give us the commercial business enterprise view, and then we'll go to Rajani to get both ends.
I would echo some of what Marc has said in that, particularly around meeting transcripts. So in the engagement that I've been on, the first phase was a discovery, and to then come back with themes and a strategy that the company was going to follow, and it involved a large number of interviews to get to that process, to actually understand what they're doing, how they're doing it, who they're doing it with, what the opportunities and the options were going forward. And to be able to take all of those meeting transcripts, drop them into a nice big file, and then point an LLM at them and say, you're a strategy consultant, please tell me the key themes that have been found here, was actually a very useful exercise. Number one, it actually reinforced the list that I'd already pulled up. It pulled out a number of items that I had either forgotten or missed from mine as well. So it was really good in terms of a good third-party quality check in terms of where I was up to and yeah, where we're going to go from here. I also found it was, though it did miss one of the key items and options that it could have had as an organization. So I'd very much echo, it will give you the first draft, but it won't give you the finished version. Also used it for collecting information and trying to find information. It's ideal as an indirect search engine. And by that, I've found that if you're going to look for specific bits of information or tell me about this type of information or how this part of the industry or the market behaves, it's very useful and it will come back. And it's actually not the content it comes back with, it's the references and the sources. Because it actually helps you go and find those really useful sources that have got high quality information in them that you wouldn't actually get if you went to the first 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of Google search. So again, that's been very useful. What's been super frustrating, trying to use it to manipulate information where actually the sources of that information have become AI savvy. So I think Google very recently reduced its results count down from pages and pages to just a short few, and that's really sort of kiboshed a number of AI startups in terms of how much information and the quality of data they can pull in. Similarly, others have got it so that if you create a PDF of the output that they've got, you then try and get AI to interpret that PDF. It will fall off the edge of a cliff because it's been designed to encode in a degraded format so that it's very hard to pull the information out. So that's some of the ranges that we've got. The also agentic AI, and using that to improve the efficiency, the effectiveness, and the range of which you can actually get your own platforms and business systems to actually operate and the value that they bring. But there's a cautionary tale there. There's no use throwing AI at something if you've got a manual process. If you haven't digitized it yet, then you're going to get the greatest benefit by digitizing it first, then introducing automation into that platform for your business process. If you then at a point where AI is on your chosen platform, so Salesforce, for instance, or Halo, or whoever it is you happen to use, fantastic. You can use that to amplify and accelerate even further. You can get your extra 10% benefit, but you're going to get a much larger benefit by doing the basics first. So I would say AI isn't always the first lever that you need to go and pull. There are many others that you may need to go for first.
Brilliant, thank you. And we just had a question pop up, which is, what are your favourite tools for meeting notes? So before we come to Rajani, Nick, Marc, what are your favourite tools for meeting notes?
I use Crisp AI. It's caught up in terms of where it was before. Now you can use it on your phone as a standalone. I can use it on my laptop if I go into a meeting, like a sit-down meeting face to face. I can just hit the button and it'll happily transcribe what's going on, and it differentiates between each of the speakers as well as a normal online meeting here.
C or K? C or K?
K.
KRISP. Yeah.
Yeah. .ai.
And do you pay for that?
I pay for the next version up from base. So I think it's the Pro version. It's very little, and you get lots of functionality for lots of value for money.
Okay, Marc, what's your favourite?
Thanks. So always trying different ones. At the moment, the favorite is still just to drop the meeting transcript into ChatGPT with a couple of prompts that we've standardized. This is definitely a fast developing space, though. I was just trying to remember the startup I spoke to last week who were trying to actually turn this into a product. But I can't remember the name off the top of my head. If I think of it during the talk, I'll drop it in the chat.
Okay. Rajani, let's get your viewpoints here on what you're doing with AI and what your favorite tool is.
So first question first. So my experience with startup and enterprise is somewhat different, but I'm gonna mash it together and try and speak at some of the differences. So if the way we use AI, if I were to categorize it on execution and agility, we use it for our agile processes, especially backlog generation. It's quite handy. And what's important for us is vertical slicing. So we use this for backlog generation to a degree. Of course, you have to give it the requirement, etc., but it's really good at creating this backlog and saves a whole lot of time for the Scrum coach to actually create this backlog. So we've been seeing improvements of this. And then also for startups, I've along with the team, we've built rapid prototypes for investor demos. And what's interesting is some of the investment comes if you're AI ready. So so we've had to put these rapid prototypes using AI, which is really good, which means then we also get funding as a consequence. So I'm just working with the team and putting a quick prototyping, like within a week, like 3 days to 5 days in between teams, we are able to get a like a good functional prototype, which is quite impressive. And then so I think it also depends on the tools. So my favorite is Augment, and GitHub Copilot is my least favorite, cursor in between. I like Augment because it is multiple repo, because often when you're working in code, it's not just one repo. You want the context of the microservices and how the rest of the microservices are using, how the deployment is, the pipeline and all that code infrastructure as a code. So you can actually bring in all the enterprise repos together. And then when you're generating code, then it's got all the context for it to suggest code. So I would say we've started seeing, since we switched to Augment, a couple of months ago, we've seen huge productivity gain. But when we were sat on GitHub Copilot, it's just about, and I think we were seeing a lot of developers being frustrated. Maybe it's because the organization has, it doesn't work for me and the developers, and you see the developers mourning. So I think having the right tools is also important to make sure your developers are, open to use it and, want to explore and want to use that tool, and they are actually finding it productive. Then on terms of like code quality and reliability, we definitely use code reviews. We use it for code reviews. And I think this is one of my favorite things, because ever since we enabled code reviews, we monitor how long the ticket's been, since it arrived, since it's closed, and it goes through various colors. So a lot of tickets used to be on red, because I think consistent code reviews, like for the junior developers, this is so good, because it gives them the first round of the code reviews that they need to fix, and also for distinguished and principal engineers, we pick up issues that like just a code review wouldn't have picked up with, you would have missed with a human eye. And that's really fascinating. We're not classifying just yet or differentiating the bugs like that, but we're tracking all bugs. But these are some of the examples we've found. And then I noticed that the senior engineers, when you actually look at what sort of engineers get most out of it, I find startups the teams are very open to like trying new things, whereas like in enterprise, it's a bit slow on the uptake and adoption. And yeah, and I think in terms of leadership as well, I've had to change the way I lead teams, because I think most of the answers, it's a little more ambiguous, you know, like it's preparing me for more ambiguity than I would have in the past. I mean, I've worked in enterprise level, you know, first of the kind products as well, but I think with AI, it's on another level.
So hold that thought, because we've got that question at the end coming up.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
hold on
yeah,
to that
okay.
one, and we'll go back to that one. But
Yeah.
okay, so you've been talking about different parts of the life cycle.
Yeah. So testing, automated testing, a lot of unit testing, contract testing, functional testing with a bit of template that we have in upfront. So we create a template, like we say, this is how it needs to work. And then like code coverage and test cases is really fast. And we've been seeing quite a lot of productivity. In fact, we realized there were some parts of the code that didn't have like, you know, testing at all. And it was quite impressive that within like an hour we had the code, you know, code coverage, code testing. So that's really something that's adding value to us. Architecture and design, I think for startups especially, I think there's more deliberation that we use, especially, you know, on the roadmap. What ifs, the what ifs is really the you know, how do we again, it comes down to like, okay, based on this roadmap, what's the best decision? And it's actually helping us with the architecture and design deliberation. And you know, things like you know, FMEA, it really has, you know, once if you have a complex infrastructure and complex everything, you know, like you're talking about 20 microservices, it's really handy, and it can spot things that you don't spot, you know, so it's really good for that. So I think knowledge is, so in the startups we actually use it for user engagement, and notifications. So we guide the user based on how they're using it. We use it for user engagement, which has been a very positive change that we've noticed, rather than, you know, like the same, like the personalization has improved, and we've got some metrics, engagement metrics, and I think that's, you know, that there's definitely some merit there. And yeah, like customer support in enterprises is really, really good as well, but although to a certain degree, and then it comes back into real humans at the end of it.
Okay,
I also use it for performance reviews, really.
I'm gonna stop you, Rajani. You're
Yeah.
covering loads and loads of topics here, and answering all the questions. So hold on to those thoughts. Thank you for covering off the where
Yeah.
you're using it today. And I think let's move on to our next question, which again you've sort of started to address some of the points, which is, you know, the full SDLC and some of the impact, and you've given us some numbers. I think, Marc, you've got some specific numbers that you've gathered through your work. So if you give us a quick rundown on those.
I'm going to share some specific numbers. However, for anyone that's read any of the recent coverage and has read the meta study on the difference between perception and reality, you know, I share these with huge caveats. And because we're a startup, you know, exactly measuring things quantifiably isn't something we're spending a lot of time on at the moment. So these are very qualitative assessments from a small team working in a specific case. Before I talk about the specific numbers that we're seeing, though, I just wanted to introduce the context for how we're viewing AI tooling throughout the software development stack at the moment. A lot of the previous discussion the last couple of years has been around how can we make all of our existing processes more efficient. That's effectively the same as saying I want my horse to go faster with this new technology. I think we're only just now starting to see the entire processes being reimagined so that we can make the most of it. And like any great new technology, it's hard to anticipate where the killer features are going to come from. And I'm sure that's why a lot of people are here today. Hopefully there'll be something to take away from. But I have no doubt that in another 6 months we'll be in a very different place. So I will start with the areas where we've seen maybe the most benefit, and then I'll talk about the ones where there's the least. And Georgina, feel free to cut me off if I start waffling too much. So
Yeah.
areas where we've seen the most improvement, like unambiguously, we feel we're in a better place with the latest tooling, is around prototyping. So I think this has been such a game changer for us because it's taken the technical skill set out of needing to prototype in a way that didn't really exist before. You know, you've now got people that are very unfamiliar with building clickable mock-ups being able to create prototypes purely from a concept in their head. So, you know, we think we're maybe twice as fast here building prototypes. And what that's also meant is that we're building more prototypes. So previously, where maybe you could only have built one to show a customer, you can build two and get their input on what's going to solve their problem better. And that's allowing us to get to value quicker. I alluded to this earlier. Another place we're unambiguously seeing an improvement is in planning and requirements analysis. So you can take a very messy transcript, and if you invest in your prompt development, and again, I'm seeing whole startups build this out as on their feature roadmaps, you can take your problem areas, customer pains, user stories directly out of all of this very messy information. I haven't yet seen, but I'm very much keeping my eye out for this, tools that can really help close the loop and not just give me the problem areas, the pains, and the user stories, but start to link that back to existing discovery and tickets. And then the last place where we've seen a little bit of a speed up is in UX and UI design. And I think that's coming out of the benefits of prototyping. Tools that are definitely being received very positively are Figma Make. But when I spoke to our designers, they wanted me to stress here that even though they can now modify UI designs more quickly and make sure that they're following design best practice, visually that happens very quickly, but all of the same design prep and homework is needed that goes on behind the scenes. So they're saying we're maybe only 20% faster in this area. Where we've seen no improvement is system design. So once you've actually got a clear idea of what it is you need to build, although you can define the requirements relatively easily with LLM tooling, the best we've been able to see it give us are a list of common patterns that might apply. And we're thinking it's maybe not so helpful because a lot of the time with system design, it's about asking the right questions. And we haven't found a great way yet to get agents to ask the questions. They're great at trying to give you guesses, but we haven't solved that question bit. And then lastly, the bit that I think receives most of the press, and it's where most of the hype is around, is actually around the final production level code implementation. We think it's a bit of a wash for us at the moment within our startup. The estimates I got from the team were anything from 20% slower to maybe 10% faster. And that, depending on where you end up in that spectrum, it largely depends on the complexity of the change. That's not to say that there's still benefits here. But you know, I think for us, in terms of the software development lifecycle, we're seeing the benefits in all the areas people aren't talking about. Everyone focuses so much on the code generation and not all of the other areas of the spectrum. And most people will know experienced software engineers generally spend the least amount of time building the code. So I actually find focus on the implementation side less helpful when actually there's lots of great stuff happening across the cycle. So that's a very quick rundown.
Thank you.
And back to you,
Yep.
And then we can sort of see where that goes.
So Nick, when you're putting together your strategy that you're working on at the moment, what are you putting in there regarding the SDLC and AI tools and just generally, you know, what are you predicting around AI?
Well, actually, the company is not an application or software company. It's a value-added reseller, solution provider, and with aspirations to become a managed services provider. So they're very much focusing on the operational AI and how it can help to a certain degree, what Marc was talking about, in that how do we improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of our operations? How do we how do we de-skill what we're doing so that actually more junior people can actually take on more advanced activities for the organization? How can we do it faster? How can we remove the need for humans to get in the way for until far later in the process? And that's important for us because we're an organization that's looking to triple the size of the company in very short order. So if I go back to middle management and leadership and say, right, if you were going to put 3 times the volume of work through your team without increasing headcount, how would you do that? And there's AI is part of that equation, but usually it requires a fundamental rethink about how they do the work. What is the work that they're doing? How can they improve it? And so there's a business process improvement and structuring process to go through first before you actually maybe reach for the tools that can enhance or extend that further. As a managed services provider, one of the greatest banes of managed services providers is their monitoring, alerting, and reporting tools, because they go off and they collect vast swathes of information on a moment-by-moment basis and bring it all back and then provide so many false positives, it's unbelievable. So being able to reduce that noise level down so that you can identify what is a high quality issue that actually requires manual intervention or confirmation in some way, shape, or form. How can we get the systems to maybe monitor and alert and find out where a true threshold is, so that it could be a dynamic threshold based on what's actually going on in a customer's environment, instead of something that is static, that is always, if it goes above a threshold, it will always fire back. Also finding a way so that we can do that, so we don't necessarily need to use an out-of-hours call company to escalate to. If we can filter this and understand what's there, one, we can get customers that are coming in directly to self-serve and help provide them with the information to solve their own problems. Equally, to understand very rapidly when that is not appropriate and bring it back to a warm body who can actually provide them with the quality and the support that they need. The agenic side of things, yes, being able to take swathes of activity away so that it no longer requires any human interaction. So just even simple things like expenses that just take so much time and effort, and particularly if you've got to then go and sign it off. If you can just give the agent your HR policy and your expenses policy, and semi-train it up with very little time and effort, actually you can do that very quickly. We've done the same with HR. We were able to deal with over 70% of normal HR routine inquiries by just building a very small agent that people could go and query. So there are some very quick wins that you can take. Another one is bid management. And so not the management, but the creation of bid responses. We've got a system in place where we will use it to analyze the bid as it comes in. It's been trained on all of the responses that we've ever given to any other bid. It knows all about our service and our product catalog and what we do. It's got all of our case studies that are in there as well. And it's able to actually go through and do at least the first cut for each of the questions that go through. It also, based on the weighting that the customer is going to apply to that. So it can get really quite sophisticated in terms of what it's doing, but it simplifies it and reduces the amount of time that we've needed to spend on at least the first cut of putting a bid response together by at least 80%. So yeah, lots of benefits.
Really good. Really good. All right, we've talked about SDLC, we talked a bit about tools that we've used. So let's go on to the people now. And Rajani, I know you've got some information from and evidence from BCS that you've seen with regards to AI and the impact that's having on skilling. So what can you share with us around that?
So I sit on the advisory boards, and it came as a surprise to us that the number of graduates taking up computer science at the degree actually dropped by 10%. So we did some analysis, but to bring it back to like AI was one of the biggest reasons, and the way AI has shifted in micro learning, right? So like you can learn anything about anything through AI, and also training is the way the training is actually given is also shifting the way people work would learn. And what we've noticed is apprenticeship is becoming more and more popular, and it's it did have its time. Now it's making a comeback, and people are trying to get more domain. So there's like other reasons, like the layoffs and the big the big tech has also impacted some of this, and there's various reasons of why the layoffs have happened. But we could see there's a shift in like the engineering students taking AI as the topic. Those so it's not, they don't look at generic computing, but very specifically looking at courses for AI. And we also noticed that even the management degrees, it's very relevant for AI. I think that is in terms of like the schools and colleges, like the hiring. I mean, I think all of us know here the deluge of, in my experience at least, the deluge of resumes that you get, that you can tell is is been through an AI. And so you tackle that problem by using AI, and sometimes you actually miss some of the good candidates. So so the candidates come through recommendation, for example, through internal, actually get looked at. So it's a bit of a crazy scene, and I think the fight is like, how can you make sure that your resume stands out and get picked out, and who do you know in the network? And I mean, that's what it comes down to. So that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, good point. And Nick, your experience of impact on people and training and skills required.
I think from what I've seen, it comes from a number of directions. One of them is that just getting people started. I think it's all of the people here, I think, can do more than spell AI, and have had hands-on and jumped in and gone to find out more. And we're actually still a minority, particularly if you go to a non-software development company. So I think just getting people started and being able to give them that gentle introduction with some very simple and basic uses and use cases and case studies for benefit that will be directly relevant to that individual in terms of what they're doing and within their role, and personally and individually in terms of what they're trying to achieve. It's I think there is a large mental barrier in terms of actually stepping over. Everyone's heard of it. It all sounds very complex and very large and very detailed, and you need to be a techie before you can even spell it. Whereas actually it's really easy to spell AI and to get in and to have a bit of fun and entertainment first, just to understand what is the size and shape and how does it move and what you can use it for. I mean, even just like I've on a quest to try and develop it as a personal assistant for me, in terms of just taking away small things that are really irritating but can be time consuming. And just I mean, two very brief examples. One is just a message first thing in the morning. So as soon as my phone comes off sleep mode, I get a text message that tells me this is the weather for the day and this is your calendar. And literally just those two small bits of information set me up for the day. I know that if I'm going out for a run, or if I'm gonna, what should I wear for the day if I'm going to be out and about? Equally, what the heck am I actually supposed to be doing today, as opposed to what I thought I was doing yesterday? Also, another one, also around calendars as well, and I think there was some analysis that people could spend up to 2.5, 3 hours a week just rescheduling meetings. And so just trying to find common times that are actually going to be free, that works across organizations, and just to get that process built through. So I found both have been hugely useful in terms of just freeing up time or just avoiding distraction. So I think It's giving people an easy first step to get in, and then giving them the tools and the direction and the support so that they can then self-serve and accelerate, whether it's for personal use or indeed for corporate.
So have you got an AI tool that reads multiple different calendars from all of the different providers and gives you a summary?
Yes, so I'm using Siri.
Siri does it.
So Siri, I've got my calendars are all into the Apple Calendar app, and then I call Siri. It notices when my sleep focus goes off. It then does a query into the weather app. It then queries the all of the calendar entries for today from the calendar app. I then wrap that up in a very brief query into ChatGPT to say, please give me a sort of like single sentence response in terms of what the weather's like and what my calendar is for the day, and then it just messages it me. So it took about, I don't know, somewhere between probably 5 minutes to build the first one, and then another 10 minutes of faffing about to make it look and feel as I wanted. But yeah, that was just done on my Apple iPhone.
Mm-hmm. Marc, what's your view on people and training with AI?
I think it's a very interesting question. I was actually surprised just how maybe insulated my perspective is working within the startup ecosystem. I was at another tech conference last week and listening to the worry and the anxiousness of parents who were trying to advise their kids who were just going to university, like, what should you study just in case it all changes. I can see just how much is shifting there. So again, I think it's important to highlight that at least within the startup world, I haven't seen that much change. Nick very, I think, reasonably spoke about the mental barrier that people have to get over. And I see it in my family members and my non-technical friends, how uncomfortable they are adapting to a lot of the changes that are happening within the world due to the various technologies we refer to as AI. If I were to take an educated guess why we're not seeing as much of that within the startup ecosystem, is that working in startups is already very uncomfortable, particularly as technologists. We take trade-offs to the extreme, even the dreaded prototype straight into production and all of the downside consequences we know that comes with in the long run. So throwing AI into the mix there with that same culture and group of people, it's created a new source of discomfort, but the absolute amount of discomfort people are feeling, it hasn't really changed much. They're just generally uncomfortable. And I think as a result of that, the adaptability, and Rajani, I think you touched on this a little bit as well, you might have seen this, it's generally it's higher, and they're much happier to try something. If it doesn't work out, they try another tool. Something I do my best to encourage from a leadership perspective is ask people to share the things that they have tried, that have worked, and even the things that haven't. As a result, not much has changed from us from a training and recruitment perspective, because a lot of the stuff we were already doing is equally transferable to AI. We definitely still try and evaluate people on levels of curiosity and interest in learning new technologies and ways of working. I don't ask this question all the time, but if I'm a little bit suspect, I might ask candidates how they've experimented using AI to improve their impact in various areas. And I'm generally happy with any sort of answer other than I haven't used it, or I don't want to use it, or something along those lines. So again, I represent the scale of change that's happening out there, but maybe because of factors, startups, it's not impacting us so much.
So you make a really good,
yeah.
Sorry.
Georgina, I just wanted to add to what Marc said there. So I have friends in like Meta, Google, and how their rate of AI adoption is on another level. I mean, it's completely, and their performance appraisals are based on like how much AI you've used. So I think the big companies are fine, but there are enterprise, companies with legacy, and I think there's this lag in people adopting. and there's a shortage of AI skills if you really see the whole ML thing. So companies, large, enterprises, they are training their existing employees so they can retain the domain expertise, and then they just train them for AI and slowly get them there. That's all I wanted to say, Georgina.
Yeah, thank you. And I was at a conference earlier in the week, and around the table we were having a discussion about the insane rate of new features being released on SaaS platforms, multiple different SaaS platforms, whether it's collaboration, Salesforce, even personal tools that are used at home. I mean, WhatsApp's gone absolutely crazy. My mum said to me the other day, "What's going on? It keeps telling me about AI. What am I supposed to do?" And one person made a really good point, which is their support desk. They're a charity, so they have very low levels of technical skills within their organization, and their customers, users, employees are frustrated as hell because new stuff keeps hitting them and they just don't know what to do. Things are moving around that they used to know where they were, and the support desk can't even keep up with it, because there's not things like release notes, or so this sort of free for all where large organizations and SaaS platforms are just throwing features out left, right, and center without any kind of training or explanation is really causing an enormous amount of frustration. And I would imagine a loss of productivity for people. Maybe not so much in, maybe if you're in Google or Meta or places like that, then you're kind of expecting it. But in other kinds of organizations, especially things like the charity-based organizations where it's a very different set of people, there's not enough thought that's going into that at all. So we have 10 minutes left. We have lots of comments on people's questions in here, but does anybody have a specific question that they want to raise? I've got some more that I can pose to the panelists, but if there's anybody that's got a burning question, and if you have a question, please make it a question. Please don't make it a comment on something that you want to share. Please make it a question. If you want to raise your hand for a question or put it in the chat.
There was a question from Mom on how I'm curious if anybody is doing structured AI literacy training across their businesses and what approaches have worked. And I thought that would be a very good question on the topic that we are discussing and what each organization does. If you're happy with it, Georgina, Marc, and Nick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So
Yep.
I think what we do is we do tech talks. We run workshops, like very mini workshops where you just how are we using AI? Just talk about it. What can we do? What's worked better for me? And then we just bring some teams and do that. And of course, like Tech Talk, then we do community of practice where we can come with all the cool AI we'll be building, and there's a little bit of sharing there as well. Of course, we have LinkedIn training where you can go through these trainings. And what I'm trying to do with my team is to make sure that they have a AI, something that they want to explore and learn and bring. So some of the mini projects. So as their pet project, we give 2 hours every week for them to learn. So one of the things that came out of it is actually 2 things that came out of it. One, which is very useful, from the logs, from the repo, from the wiki, we could help, for platform engineering, we could help give solutions. We were getting a lot of support tickets and we could easily help them, and they could just go do self-service. So that's one thing. And the other thing is about release notes. So what we do is, the release notes basically has got like 1 or 2 lines, but we look at the code to make sure that that release note, whatever you've said is in the release note, matches what the code actually has changes. So we pick up on those and then flag it. So I think these are the 2 pet, like just someone wanting to explore, and some good has come out of it. And
Brilliant.
hackathons is another way.
Hackathons, yeah.
Yeah.
Nick. Anything on that question that you want to add?
No, I think I've already covered bits on that one.
Okay, and Marc, are you doing any kind of training on AI literacy?
Yes, absolutely. Tons. And I think a couple of people in the comments have kind of flagged this. So there's two things we're trying to teach people. One is, how can you improve your own lives through using automation tooling? And also, what's the difference between automation and AI? Because I often try and discourage the use of AI, aka LLMs, if it can be avoided, because that comes with its own error rate. I'm just in the process of putting together a little mini training course for people on Zapier and NA10, where we're encouraging everyone to try and build their own little automation. And one of the outcomes of doing that we're hoping for is not just people realizing what can be automated, but also to help surface the bigger, more complex problems that they can't automate themselves, but if they were automated, would result in a significant improvement in quality of life or business objective. These become good discovery areas for the engineers within the company. So yes, we're absolutely doing it. I wish we could spend more time on it, but it's always competing for one or another priority.
Yeah, very true. I mean, I'm impressed, Rajani, that you give 2 hours a week for training, and you manage to protect that time. That's very, very admirable indeed. Okay, so we have 5 minutes left. We've pretty much covered all of the questions. I think we've had lots of great insights, and rather than kick off another conversation, I think it's a good time to say thank you to everybody for contributing. Barry, if you just want to wrap up at all with some last final comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Georgina, for wrangling what is a huge topic, obviously, to try and cover. I will just say again that there is a document in the chat. I know there was about 25 people that had added LinkedIn's before. So the whole point of this, there's been a bunch of comments all over the place, obviously from the panel and in the chat as well. The idea of these things is to kick off these discussions to really get that going. So please do add your LinkedIn, please do connect with others and build the network. Over the last 18 months, we've been running something called the CTO Job Club. And it's where a lot of CTOs, obviously the job market's been very difficult for CTOs over that time. And so a lot of people have joined both fractional, interim and permanent CTOs. And they're often like, right, who's looking and that kind of thing. One of the first things we say is, well, look and speak to your network. And so often people have said, it's been something I've neglected for the last 4 or 5 years while I've been in work. And so yeah, the first thing that they then do is start networking. So again, we try and push this as much as we can on these sessions to at least get that connection there and speak to people that you agree with. But no, thank you again to everyone that's tuned in. We have another session coming up. We have actually Adam. I don't know if Sasha's here. Adam, Martin, you're on next Friday. Do you want to give a quick teaser as to what's coming?
I'll try. Thanks for the on the spot there. So sovereignty, AI sovereignty. Thing I saw actually recently was, I'd actually missed this in the news. It's more than a month old. An executive for Microsoft standing up and saying to the EU government, I actually cannot guarantee that if Microsoft head office told us to exfiltrate all the private data on EU citizens, that we wouldn't just do it. Yeah, sorry, can't, sorry. Yeah, US law, sorry. All the data in EU citizens is actually owned by the US government. Sorry, mate. Stuff like that is terrifying, but also, is it real? How bad is it? What can we do about it? What should we be doing? And some of the finer details of, is it a legal problem? Is it a technical problem? Is it a practical problem? DevOps, hosting? Yes, to all of those to some extent. So we're going to try and dive into all of those topics from different directions, and for people who've experienced and dealing with the different aspects of it. Obviously, it's a massive topic, so we will only be able to do a kind of small dive into it, but hopefully quite a lot of interesting starting points should come out of that for people to go away and jump off on their own. Is that an okay summary, Barry? Sorry, that was a bit...
Yeah, that was perfect. Sorry,
Thank
mate,
you.
for just throwing.
No
I just saw
worries,
your
it's
face.
okay.
I was just like, perfect. I'll take the opportunity. So yeah, there you go, guys. I'm afraid I don't have a link, but we will have a link hopefully by the end of play today. So that'll go out on the London CTOs mailing list. It'll be on LinkedIn. So it'll be everywhere. So you'll see it. Hope you can join that. Thanks again, everyone, for today, and we will see you. See you all soon. Cheers all.
Everyone, happy Friday.
Thanks.